live. Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 26 of the Dojo Kun Shill Shack. I'm your host, Brian, also known as Dojo, and my guest co-host this week is Jake from TaleEnd Studios. Hey, Jake, how you doing, Bionic Bro?
I'm doing good, Dojo. How about you?
I'm doing real well. A couple of weeks ago, Dee and I went through a really bad bout of COVID, and we are so glad to be almost completely done with that. Hopefully that means that we've got the antibodies and our immune system is in overdrive for a while.
Well, it looks like you have back at 100, man. You got all the energy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I had a monster a little while ago, so I'm good.
There it is.
So and it's good that I have that energy because we've got a lot to talk about today.
Excellent.
There's releases, there's campaigns that are live. We've got two great guests that are coming on. I had a discussion with one of the guests before we came live, and I haven't met him before, but boy, am I glad I did, because we've got a lot in common and a lot of things that we disagree on, but that kind of makes it fun to have a great civil discourse. So in fact, without further ado, let's bring him on. This is let me shoot you. There we go. Double H German. How you doing?
Doing well, guys. Good to see you.
Yeah, very good to meet you. I'm glad that you came on the show. You've got a great project that it touches some people. It's not. I mean, it's escapism entertainment. It's a great comic book, but it's more than that too. And I'll let you tell us what that is when we bring up your campaign. One of the things, though, I want to talk about for a moment is the fact that my co-host Jake has a comic book that's in demand right now. It's Cobalt, Death Stalks Us. And, this was the first one. You can see the painterly style that Arosa. Yes, Arosa. Mm-hmm. This cover, though, is by Bertolini, though, isn't it?
Yeah, Max Bertolini. He's done covers for Dark Horse and Heavy Metal Magazine.
Okay, so he's got some great artists on this project. Now, Arosa, who does the inside, is got a really gritty, painterly style that's perfect for the theme that Jake is going for. So definitely have a look at that. His link is in the description if you want to give a chance to check that out in demand. I wanted to tell you folks that this is a jam-packed week of releases. We have John Hervey, who's the creator of Black Tiger, Hidden Dragon. He's got 2 books out on his latest campaign, which are Magna and the Posse. When I first saw that, I thought it was Magna and the Posse, 1 book, but no, it's 2 books, Magna and another, the Posse, on the same campaign. So definitely go check that out. Another release this week. I got to get my list here. We've also got, let's see. Oh, yes, Peter Samedi with his King Cryptid is out, and it's live today. So definitely got to go check that out. I mean, Peter, if you're not already getting Alterna books, I mean, let me grab this for a second here.
Yeah, I got their winter season. I haven't gotten their spring season yet. They
are amazing books, okay? They are on newsprint, and I mean, there's Blood Realm, there's Tinseltown, Legends of Lore, The 12. There's a lot of great books. If you're not already having a look at Alterna books, you really should. And our other guest that's coming on in just a few minutes is Clint Stoker, and he is the creator of Downcast. And no offense to anybody present, but Downcast, in my opinion, is perhaps one of the best written comic books I've ever read. Not just in CG, but I mean, I was blown away by the story. The art's pretty good too, to be honest with you, but Downcast was in my, when I did the show called The Best of CG 2021, that was my vote for the best author. So I'm not just blowing smoke when I say that. Clint really has a good head for writing comic books. Now, somebody else who has a great head for writing comic books is with us, and that's Double H. As you can see, I'm a fan. I've got all 4 issues of Here Comes Calico, and he's here to talk about number 5. So, Double H, I've got your campaign ready to show if you want me to drive, and you can sort of drive us through the campaign. It's currently on Kickstarter. Let me see here. I got to stop sharing that because we're going to go to Double H first. Share screen. A little clunky here. I'll get there. Here we are.
Is it Calico or is it Calico? Because I want to make sure I get that right.
It's Calico, and he loves playing Calico.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, the Calico is the cat, Calico is the system.
There we go.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
all
you.
right.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
so
having me come here.
yeah, no problem. Pleasure to have you here. So tell us about this campaign. Like I said, it's currently on Kickstarter, but
Right.
there's more to come. So I'm going to let you
Yep.
take the floor, and I'll drive for you.
Yeah, and just to let everyone in the audience know, we'll be on IndieGoGo as well. We don't believe in alienating audiences. We have
Right.
plenty
Sure.
of people in CG who love the book, and we're just not. I was telling before the show that we're not the kind of people that are just gonna because we're not. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, I'm not right wing or a Republican or CG, but I absolutely respect people from all different walks of life, different viewpoints, and that's very important to us and me personally. That social justice is in our name. Our tagline is justice for all, and of course, we mean animals, but we love everyone, especially people who love comics and people who love animals. We're not going to alienate anyone, and
Right.
this isn't. As much as of a cultural war that's going on in comics, it's also generation. We have a product here in the Calico, the Here Comes Calico series, that everybody can embrace, that everybody can understand. All of us have had bullies at one point of our life, whether it was in the playground or in the work setting, or maybe we saw it, or maybe we ourselves were bullies. And when you understand that tension that arises between prey and predator, okay, if you can understand that, you can understand what's going on in that dynamic, that basic conflict between good and evil. And that's what this book is about. It's the essence of any comic book. And that's what we try to put out. We put out a story about a hero who has a fundamental distrust of people, okay? And his thing is he loves animals because he knows he can count on the animals. They're not going to, turn their back on him. They're going to love unconditionally, like all animals do once you form that bond, and you know it. So we've got the Calico who, Batman leaves the bad guys tied up for Commissioner Gordon. The Calico leaves animal abusers tied up in hefty bags in the East River. So this guy,
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things I want to touch on, but I don't want to interrupt you yet. We'll get to that a little bit later as far as how he handles them. But please go on.
Yeah, he's pretty intense. And again, we don't get into politics. That's just not what we're about. We're about putting out a good story. And thankfully, I'll get into how we got the whole thing started. It's pretty fascinating, actually. I was actually training for a fight. I'm a former fighter.
We have a pugilist with us.
Right. Yeah. I was actually training for a fight back in 2020, and all my fights got canceled because of this sick, pandemic situation.
Right.
And somebody who I was dating, she got a book deal, and she said, "Hey, HH, why don't you get that Animal Lover book novel that you've been working on off the shelf and see what you can do with it now that we're in quarantine?" And as I spent time with it, it was clear that this was more of an outline for a comic book. And the first thing I did, I know how to draw because I went to art school. I told you I'm a New York guy. Went to art school. I went to the School of Visual Arts. And even though I can draw, and I drew all of the characters first, I wanted to go to the chair, the dean of the department, and talk to some alumni maybe who are just out of school, because I'm not a rich guy. I just want to, give some work to some, young illustrator.
Join the club, brother.
Yeah, right. I hear you.
Right. And as I'm scrolling down, this is to all you people out there who click on the first link. Don't do it. Keep scrolling down. I'm on Amazon. I like to check all the prices and really get thorough. It's the cheap guy in me. And I kept going down and down and down. And let me tell you, when I got down and I saw Klaus Janson on that list, I said, holy crap, and I reached out to him, and unbelievably, he contacted me, and he was the first sort of body of guidance that I received for this project. And he was great. The legendary Klaus Janson, of course.
Right. Inker on Daredevil with Frank Miller, and yeah.
Right. Born Again, Dark Knight Returns, et cetera, et cetera. So I had a very great guiding force in the early part of this. And just to bring it full circle, in terms of what I just started talking about divisions and how we have left and right and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have the wonderful Mike Barron, who's given me wonderful guidance of late. And obviously, you know, he has his political views. And again, which I fully respect, and somebody who I hold incredibly high and dear, whose work I respect. And, you know, all of us who call ourselves comic book creators, regardless of what viewpoints we have, at least from my perspective, we have to love and respect all creators because we're all artists and we're putting forward passionate work with our true heart forward. And you could see it in the work. When somebody puts everything they have into it and they put everything down to focus on the product and the project, you see it ring true. And I'm very thankful that guys like you were able to see that in this project.
Absolutely. And you and I talked about it before we went live, and that is, you know, civil discourse is very important. Even if we are on, you know, vastly different sides of the aisle,
Right.
the fact that we can have conversations and maybe at the end of the conversation, we haven't persuaded one another to change our stance, but
Right.
at least at the, you know, at the very least, we respect one another and we have great conversations about it, such that we walk away thinking, you know, that was actually a pretty good point. I'm going to ponder that some more and,
Right.
you know, give it some thought for my next conversation. Now,
Right.
I also told you the older I get, the more middle I become because the right and left seem kind of crazy. So I'm going to, you know, I'm more of a centrist anymore.
Right. Well, I didn't even know it, but I grew up in a pretty conservative right wing area, even though I grew up in New York. My neighborhood, I grew up in a tough Italian neighborhood all the way up in the north in the Bronx, more closer to Westchester. In fact, you can even walk to Westchester. Okay. So it wasn't like deep south in the Bronx. It was all the way up north. And it was very tough. It was fighting every day. It was, you know, sort of very conservative values, very little crime, so to speak. But that was for another very particular reason, because the crime was handled by a very professional organization, and nobody
was organized.
Right, exactly. Right. No one was going to get out of line in my neighborhood. That's for sure.
My paisans.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Hey, Tony, what are you doing over there? What you got going on? I mean, nobody was going to mess around in my neighborhood. That's for sure. But there's a certain level of respect that you understood that you needed to both give and accept. Growing up, even as a child, you knew this, that you just couldn't mouth off to anybody, and you know, you respected your elders. You respected this. This allows you to respect other people's viewpoints. And again, I was too young to understand left or right or anything like that. But it was a great way to grow up because it wasn't easy. It was difficult. You know, I heard lots of things being called because I looked a little different than a lot of the other kids, and I was fighting a lot. But it all comes down to the person. How are you going to accept that negativity? Are you going to let it sort of thwart your progress as a human, as a person, or are you going to accept the challenge and make it, you know, toughen you and cause you to roll up your sleeves and learn from it and continue to grow? You know, when I like to use a lot of references because I'm a former athlete at a very high level. The human body, by definition, cannot grow without challenge. Okay. Bodybuilding.
Yep.
That's the essence of bodybuilding. You're literally going into that gym and beating the living piss out of the tissue.
You got to break down those muscles. Yep.
Right. That's literally what you're doing. You're creating millions of micro tears in your muscle tissue, so that it bleeds. Okay. And in that bleeding process, the protein that you're able to take in, the creatinine, what happens is you're able to fortify those incisions to a point. It's like a balloon when you blow it. Okay, those micro tears, and that's exactly what's happening with your body. As you blow a balloon, there's actually little tears that are happening. If you had a little microscope, you could actually see them, a tear as you expand the balloon. And ultimately, the final tear is what, you know, blows the balloon up if you keep doing it. But that's the whole concept. You have to challenge. No, there's no pain, no gain. You have to challenge yourself. And that's the way I grew up.
I know that more than once in the dojo, I've bled a little bit.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know firsthand. And listen, That's the
broken
thing.
some bones.
There you go. I've said this before.
All mine were self-inflicted growing up, so.
I've said this before on other shows. You know, you can't write about superhero comics if you don't understand that tension, that conflict tension, because that's the essence of good versus evil. Okay. You've got people right now, the big two, who haven't even been punched in the face or haven't even been in a fight or even seen one. How the hell are you going to talk about putting someone through a wall? You know, and this character did that to the other one. You haven't even been punched in the face. You know, and this is not to say that you have to be everybody has to be a fighter now to write comic books. What I'm saying is that you have to have some fundamental understanding of fear and tension and what that is. These are the essential components of conflict. Okay, when you're in an elevator with somebody who looks very ominous, okay, and you could feel your heart rate start to increase, and what that tension is like. What I'm telling you face to face is there are people who today are writing comics and even drawing them, because drawing is part of that storytelling process, very important.
Absolutely.
Who have a fundamental misunderstanding of the essence of superhero comic book creation, and that is the good versus evil, the conflict between good and evil.
Part of that reason, I think, is because adversity is what strengthens you, and a lot of these folks get their participation trophies. They get the pat on the head, and they're there. No, you're just as good as them. I don't know why you didn't win, and you know you can sing, hon. They just told you to go home. Yeah, you know what?
That's your mother growing up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sometimes though, you need honest critique. You need to be told where you have room for improvement so that you can grow. And sometimes it's said with love, but it's still a form of adversity. There's such thing as distress, which causes us, to have anxiety and all that. But there's also its opposite, which is called eustress. And eustress is the kind of great stress you feel before you go on stage, before you enter the ring, before you spar at the dojo, whatever you're doing. Maybe even just sitting down at a book signing where you're going to see 100 fans. That kind of stress builds you, and that's
absolutely. That's an excellent point. I've been in hundreds of fights. That's not an exaggeration. On the street prior to walking into the gym, and there I've had probably thousands, and that's probably not good for my brain, but it is what it is.
You seem to be okay.
Yeah, thankfully. Defense was very important to me. I had a hybrid Philly shell and peekaboo style, but finding a defensive strategy was important. But what you said is so key there. Okay, prior to every single fight and most sparring sessions, there was a rising tension that would always start in the stomach, and it would rise up. I could literally feel it. It's a tangible thing that went all up into the throat to the point where the first bell rang. You could feel the knot, and after the first punch, everything was forgotten. And now you're acting. Now you're action. And by acting, my usage of acting is I'm acting to defend myself and defend my life, because every time you're in there, you could potentially die, right? So that's the way it was. It doesn't have to be fighting. It could certainly be a speech. It could certainly be, a big presentation that you're giving. Whatever it is that causes that tension, understand it, feel it. Don't be afraid of it. When I became cognizant of this, I would do this intentionally. I had an absurd fear of, not as an adult, but as a teenager. I had this fear of gigantic. So before I even bring this up, let me give you a little backstory. So as you can see, I'm a mixed person, right? So I'm Latino, I'm Dominican, and I grew up in part of my upbringing is in the Dominican Republic, and I spent many summers there. And let me tell you, where I grew up, there weren't many cockroaches, and if there were small ones, like maybe that big. In the Dominican Republic, I'm not kidding, you got things like hey big, they're huge.
Nope.
And some of them fly around. So I had this fear because, as a kid, my grandparents they had like an outhouse situation. So you had to go in the wilderness. You had to walk for a good, I don't want to exaggerate here, but I'd say a good 30 feet, 30, 40 feet in the backyard at night. And there's coconut trees out there, all sorts of my gigantic prehistoric, you know,
pick you up and carry you off.
You know, something out of the never-ending story, you know. But when you lock that door, all sorts of, and you could hear them out there. You could see antennas and all these things, and every now and then you saw a gigantic thing like this. Holy crap, you know. Oh man. Anyway, the point is, I had this fear that as I grew older, I said, this is kind of illogical. So I knew a friend of mine who did live in the South Bronx who had, you know, those water bugs in his basement. And I got to the point, you know, this is a really silly phobia. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to lock myself in a room with one of these things. And I would challenge myself. And I think that process, that practice came from fighting. Because when I first started competing, I had very old school Italian trainers, and I'd hang from a pole in the basement. And to toughen my core, they would hit me, you know, with body shots, and you'd see my body swing back and forth. And I would take it, and it was from there that I understood that I could, as a cognizant process, put myself in acute situations where I was directly challenging things that I was very uncomfortable with. And today, to your point, many of us go away from the challenge because it's uncomfortable. We can create these bubbles, and that is never good. Why? Because as you pointed out, then you're not growing. Okay. Right. We live in a society today where you don't have to hear a dissenting point. You could just do this. You could get the news you want, all the videos you want to do, and they could all be your type of viewpoint.
Your perfect echo chamber.
Right. Exactly. And then what happens is you don't hear each other, and then life just happens, and you're living two completely, you know, opposite lives. And like I said, I found that to be essential. And this is why so many kids, you know, I know it now, but I didn't know it at the time, why it is that kids who are coming from bad situations, like, how the hell are you going to give them boxing? That's the last thing you want to do. That kid just did, you know, he broke into a store. He just beat somebody. Oh my God, you're giving them boxing? That's a terrible thing. No, that's what you need to give them, because you know what happens? Bingo. That's it right there. It takes a lot of work to throw punches. Okay. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of brain power to process where to be in the ring, how to angle, how to block, how to parry. Over time, that gives you an incredible base of knowledge, of self-discipline, of self-management, what to eat. You know, I used to drink tons of soda. I love Coca-Cola. I don't know about you guys, but between the Pepsi and the Coke wars, I love it. I'm a Coke guy, okay, or was. I used to drink tons of Coke. I loved it as a teenager.
I used to drink a ton of Mountain Dew.
Oh, right here, brother.
That was great. Oh my goodness. And you know what? The minute I started training for fighting, and I saw what impact that had when you take a body shot after drinking a liter of Coke. Oh my God. That was the worst thing ever.
The thing that stopped me from soda was the first kidney stone I had. That was the worst. I don't care about the dojo, how many times I've been kicked or hit. The worst pain I've ever experienced was the kidney stone. And they said that one of the things that contributed to that was the soda I was drinking. So that was the end of that.
Right.
Hey, listen, before we finish this point, though, I want to bring Clint onto the show because I'd love for him to be a part of the conversation. So welcome to the stream. Clint Stoker, how you doing, Clint?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me. I'm so sorry I'm late, but
no, you told me you would
flexible.
Be. No worries. Yeah. No worries. We're having a great conversation with Double H here about adversity and how it helps us grow, and how the authors and artists of today's Big Two are drawing and writing these stories with a lack of adversity, with a lack of understanding of conflict, such that instead of showing the good guy versus the bad guy, they're going to show two people sit in a coffee shop and talk for an hour. You know, that's not good storytelling. So he was telling us about how he grew up with adversity, and it taught him many lessons that helped him grow.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. It's an interesting dynamic when you're growing up a certain way. You know, I just mentioned that I'm Dominican, right? So I spent part of my time in the DR. I was born here, so I'm American. So I'm a Dominican American, and comic books it's a seminal piece of Americana. Okay, and it certainly was seminal to my American story. My parents both were microbiologists. They worked in the New York hospital system. And my father, he knew I loved creative things. And he said, I'm going to get this kid comic books. And of course, my English, even though I was born here, my first language is
Good man.
Yeah, there's a good dad.
Yeah. He started buying me comics. And, here's what happens, though. When you get out of work in New York at these hospitals pretty late. So he came across this thing called the mail order, a comic book mail order. And at that time, Bob Bell, you might recognize his ads in the back of every single Marvel comic book from like 1964 to about 1984. And that's the logo. If you see the logo of Sigma Comics, you'll recognize that logo right away. That's Bob Bell's old logo.
That's what I knew I'd seen it before. I just didn't know from where.
That's where it's from. You've seen that logo hundreds of times, my friend. There you go.
Hang on, let me solo myself out so I can show it.
All right.
Come on. I know how to do this. You know what though? It's because I got to move myself out of the top slot so I can do this right. There. Now I can hit the ellipsis.
See, that feels weird.
And now I can show you what he's talking about right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's Bob Bell's old logo. It's a little Thor-ish guy.
Right.
And that was how my father was able to buy comics, because like I said, everything was closed by the time he got out. So he ordered them. And it was a wonderful thing. And like I said, comic books an American institution. And from them, I learned words like penultimate and Excelsior and all these other incredible. It was like you had Sesame Street and comics, and between them, I was able to form this incredible vocabulary to the point where I'd go back to school and the teacher's like, "Holy cat! Where'd you learn that word, penultimate?"
Right.
So, and it's a beautiful thing. Comics is a wonderful thing, and all of us. I don't care if you're left, right, young, old. You have to understand the enormous value that comic books has to all of us. I was mentioning before that I don't care who your biggest movie star is. I guarantee you that each and every one of them aspired to be like Superman, Batman, or Wonder Woman. And these are characters that they're so inspirational, intrinsic to the American story. Mm-hmm. So, and that's certainly part of mine. And I really am thankful to have been, received this wonderful upbringing here. Comics.
Very good. Yes, absolutely. And you're also an accomplished publisher now, because after all, this is issue number 5 of this series, and this isn't the only series you're doing. Is that right?
This is for now. We really want to focus on this right now. I mentioned that Klaus Janson was a wonderful guiding force early on, and of course now we're getting some very good feedback from people like Mike Barron, who's I respect enormously, and the character definitely has some essential similarities to his character, the Badger, and certainly the Punisher, who he was a prolific writer on as well.
Okay,
right. So, yeah, you know what? Now that you mentioned the Badger, yes, I can see the similarities. I just read the first 4 issues of Calico, so I was prepared for the stream, so I know what you're talking about. Why don't you walk us through the campaign though, so we can have a look at what you've got on offer here?
Yeah, sure. I'm interested in this character called the Jiggler.
The Jiggler is the latest guy. He escaped from. He's a recent escapee from the mental institution, and his MO is he gets his hand on the M134 minigun, and once he starts that thing working, baby, his 550-pound frame just starts jiggling all across the streets of Brooklyn, and everybody hits the deck.
So unfortunately, it's not the same kind of jiggle that Jake was looking for, but that's all right.
No, but that's when I saw him holding the turret and just like his whole body like that, I was like, that cannot be. But he just confirmed it was. So
oh yeah, that's his weapon of choice. So the Jiggler is doing his thing there, and like I said, he's the latest in the growing rogues gallery of the Calico. The Calico is based in New York City, and as I mentioned before, this guy really goes hard against animal abusers, and we've got lots of wonderful rewards there that start with the comic book itself, readers and collector copies individually.
Okay, yeah, let's go to that. So you've got a digital tier at $4.
Right. Those people that just want to do the device, there's your reader copy there.
Right.
You just want to roll that baby and read the story. Then you got your collector copy, which of course, we make sure to pack very nicely and you get it unblemished.
Okay.
And then it goes into your tablet copies there for, what is that?
All five.
I'm sure if you contacted PETA, you'd have many more people busting this campaign down, man.
Oh yeah. We had a very general, broad strategy when we first started, and then a lot of those people were of that ilk. But now we've got people who really love comics and love animals.
Of course.
So that's really our core. People who are comic book fans, because a lot of these people thought we were a PSA a comic book or announcement. And they were like, "Holy crap! This is actually a comic book here."
Right,
So,
right.
Okay.
I almost had my dog come on as a guest star, but she's downstairs. So
all animals by default love the Calico. So just
yeah, by default, yeah, absolutely.
He's the ultimate defender. And you have your issues. That's actually a convention package there, because we go on conventions a lot. And usually what we do is we do issues 1 and 2 at the convention, and here they can pick up the balance of the series.
All right.
Yep. And then here they could do the whole set for reader copies, and of course followed by the collector copies. Lots of variety here, so people can get pretty much whatever they want, how they prefer to get the series. And of course, then you have readers and collectors, because people do love that as well. So
one thing I would suggest, and you might want to do this when you port this over to IndieGoGo, is to show these previous covers a little bit better, to show the character Calico, because the Jiggler is a pretty awesome character, I must say, but Calico himself is part of the draw, because the first few covers are really, really eye-catching. And to be frank, the reason I grabbed the series was because of how great I thought the character looked.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great point, and we'll definitely be looking into that moving forward. I know the images weren't as big as we'd like them, so we're definitely going to be looking at that, and I appreciate that feedback. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've got a question, Double H. What had you go with the title or the namesake for Calico? What made you choose that? That's
a great question. The Calico colors, the colors of a Calico, black, white, and tan.
Right.
And that's the ethnicity, the black background of a lot of Caribbean Latino.
Okay,
right?
I got you.
Latinos come in a lot of flavors, and it's emblematic of the New York Latino. The typical New York Latino is like a Puerto Rican Dominican, and they do have white, black, and native background. So I did my 23andMe, actually not even because I was curious, even though I am curious, but just because of for health reasons. And it turns out I'm 54% white, I'm 32% black, and the balance is Native American and Asian. So and that's a very typical Latin Caribbean mix. There is white. There's significant, white in our background because the Spaniards and the Portuguese, right? And then you have the African component, and you got the Native American component as well. So those are the actual colors of the Calico: black, white, and tan. Nice. So that's why we call him that. So he's an emblematic figure for New York street justice guy.
I got to be honest, that's a pretty great answer. I like that.
No kidding. I wasn't expecting that at all, but bonus points. That was awesome.
Yeah, we wanted to go pretty deep with this, and if you see, you read the first issue there, and it does take you a little bit into that Dominican flavor, and the New York City vibe gets deeper into the second issue. We really, that I told all of our artists, and it's the same thing I tell them. Listen, it's great that you draw the Calico, fantastic, but here's another extremely important thing: you have to be able to draw New York City. And that's an absolute must for me, because New York City is the accomplice in this series. Okay. Yep. And that's why you see, if you watch there, you got the Bronx, you got Brooklyn, you got Woodlawn in the Bronx, Irish, very heavy Irish neighborhood. People talk with brogues in Woodlawn. You got Jamaican neighborhoods, you got Black neighborhoods, you got Chinese neighborhoods. We're all over the place. We really want to give that essence of New York, the way it is right now, and there are light references to the past. Like, for instance, in issue 4, Brian, you talk about reading all the issues. In issue 4, you saw that Bensonhurst now is sort of like the new Chinatown in New York. A lot of people don't know that. Bensonhurst is where John Travolta taught everyone how to, eat a slice of pizza in Saturday Night Fever, So these are the things that all of us know, but because everything's always changing, this series gets you into the flavor of New York, and that's what we're trying to do. New York is a key component to this series.
Cool. Excellent. Well, they did a good job so far. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. So number 5 in and of itself is available now. You said on Kickstarter, you're going to go to IndieGoGo. Will there be an opportunity? Will you be taking this entire series at the end and maybe doing it as a trade paperback?
Yes, we're definitely going to do that. We already have, a lot of people who, requested that. So we definitely want to do a collected series. Absolutely.
See, some of us are completist collectors. So, even if I get each individual issue of this 8-issue series, I will also get the collected series.
Right. Well, listen, we love it, and we love the support. One of the things that's important to note for this campaign, and I'll go in detail into this, is every penny goes to fighting animal abuse, because we only partner with animal rights charities that are vetted to make sure that the program to operations ratio is over 80%. A lot of times when you give to charity, and a lot of you guys already know this, the money goes to operations. Okay, that's someone's salary, paying the lights, the light bill. With these charities that we vet, it's important to note that the way they operate, the bulk of their money actually goes to the program. Okay, so these are items that purchases related to extracting animals and bringing them in better situations where they're loved and they're cared for. And that's very important to us, because our cause is essentially to fight animal abuse with this. And how does that happen? Well, there's a couple of ways. One indirect, one direct, right? So when you purchase Here Comes Calico, the advertising that you're going to see are partnerships we have with these entities that are vetted. So that gives them more exposure, obviously, in a completely new market that they've never had direct access to. And that's people who read comics or into pop culture. And that's a beautiful thing for them to do at no cost to them. And all that does is increase their memberships, right? Their donors, et cetera, et cetera. But the other thing is indirectly. If you look at pop culture, there's a term in social science called real culture. Okay, this is your culture at the time, regardless of where you are. Every area has a culture. Okay, so pop culture has been studied to have a direct impact on real culture, and that's been proven. If you look at shows in the past, for instance, like The Jeffersons, or The Mary Tyler Moore Show, or Will and Grace, I don't care what the social issue is. Pop art has always impacted direct culture, and we know that based on science and based on common sense. And because we know that, this is our hat that we're throwing into the fray, because animal abuse is a very serious social ill, and this is our attempt to do something great. And it gives us something to do as well, because we're creatives and we love this, helping animals. So it's a wonderful thing, win-win any way you look at it.
Yeah, it is a great cause. I want to ask you one more question before we turn this to Clint's book. And this one here, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but I do want to hear what you think about this. And that is that Calico is a bit severe with the abusers. And that puts him across the line of legality as well. So he is technically a criminal. Is there a point at which there's a redemption arc for him, or is this is how it is? Just
no, he's already redeemed in my eyes. Give him what they get. Exactly right. Yeah. Well, Calico's got my support. Let's do this.
Well, listen, there are so many parts to that question, but there's two essential parts. The first part is morality, right? What kind of morals are we dealing with this guy? And the second is, is he looking to, sort of get over this clear deficiency, moral deficiency that he has to truly become what is generally known as a quintessential hero. So what I can tell you is, without revealing anything for the future, that he's undergoing a struggle. He absolutely knows that he's not normal, you know, the way he sees with the world, and he's going through a battle. It's a personal battle, because on the one hand, he makes it very clear he has very, very low confidence in people.
Yeah, he definitely does.
Right. So, but at the same time, you know, there are people in his life that he does care for. For instance, that lady June who helps him, you know, he's never going to admit it, but he doesn't want to see anything bad happen to that lady. You know what I mean?
Right.
The two little, you know, dreamers that work in the hardware store, Flacco and Primo, you know, these kids, they're just going to die in the street because all they want to do is make money, you know, and they want to get in on the hottest new thing. And Calico's been there before. Remember, he was it's alluded to in the story. He was a thief, right, at a very high level. Yep. So he was indeed a professional criminal full time, and he's sort of getting out of it. So to answer your question, the long and short of it is, yes, he's trying. He's trying in his way, and his way is extremely slow and deliberate, but he's trying. That's what I can tell you.
You know, one thing, we were talking about adversity and struggle. So in addition to man against man, him against the abusers, there's also an example, significant example of man against himself in this story arc. So it's definitely a good read, folks. It's not for little ones, so just make sure that it's not out on your coffee table. This is definitely adult themed for its violence, but at the same time, there's a cause behind it as well. So I highly recommend it. Currently, like we said, it's on Kickstarter. It's at $1,979 of a $2,500 goal. And so it's definitely attainable here on Kickstarter in the next 23 days. But Double H also has indicated he plans to port this over to IndieGoGo and pick it up from there for those folks that you know, have an issue with platforms and all that, or just want to wait till it's on IndieGoGo to see how it does on Kickstarter. Whatever your reason, make sure you give it an opportunity on one of the platforms to check out Here Comes Calico.
I appreciate that very much. You know, and just a final word on it. I want to thank you guys for having me on. And like I said, it's so important. We don't turn away anyone. If you're an animal lover, we love you. If you're a comic book fan and comic book lover, we absolutely love you. I don't care if you're right, left, anything. You guys are people we love very passionately, because you're espousing something that we care for very much, and that's comics. You know, we work with people from all different backgrounds, and you know, we support each other. You know, I buy books from IndieGoGo, absolutely support them, because I think they're good quality books. You know, Mike Barron has that Thin Blue Line book. I think it's great.
Yep.
Yeah, that looks awesome. I can't wait to get that.
Right.
Always Thin Blue Line.
Yeah, always support that. You know, Andy Smith has a book that I like too, The First Man. I go for that. Fraga's book. You know, there's so much talent. You know, and just because and this is I'm speaking directly to the audience now. Look at quality, look at passion, and support what you see as quality and passion. There's a lot of, you know what, I'm not even going to say the word, that's happening in the big two. And, you know, support your indies. I don't care whether it's on IndieGoGo or Kickstarter. There's people who really love comics. Give them your support. I saw this comic book that Clint has here. That cover is incredible. You know, that's talent, and you have to support that. Absolutely. So thank you.
So
Kelsey's
I'd like
amazing.
you to stick around. What's that?
I said Kelsey's amazing. Yeah.
Yes, Kelsey, definitely. Kelsey Shannon did that cover, the one with Dracula seated on the couch there. Or is that Harker?
Oh no, that's Dracula. Yeah.
Is it? Okay. All right. So what we'll do then, let me go to your campaign, and let me share screen here. And Double H, please stick around. If you have any questions for Clint, feel free to chime in at any time.
Absolutely.
Let's go here. And then one more. I got to do this. There we go. All right. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring you up here, Clint, because we're going to hear what you have to say about Clint Stoker's Dracula. Now, I said it that way on purpose. Tell us why you're uniquely suited to put out a book called Dracula, Clint.
Yeah, so it's this ongoing joke, you know. Bram Stoker wrote Dracula. I'm Clint Stoker, and so, is there a connection? There actually is. I'm related to Bram Stoker, but it is so distant that I find it's just funny. It's a joke. I'm actually related to Bram Stoker through my mother's side. So my Stoker last name is not his Stoker last name.
Are you kidding?
I'm not
That's
even kidding.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Great.
So
that makes it even better.
yeah. It's, I
You
have
just got the boat by that much.
it's hilarious. So I even have a page, a dedication page in my book that says it's dedicated to my 11th cousin 4 times removed on my mother's side, which is Bram Stoker. So it's kind of ridiculous, but I got to take advantage of it. People have been asking for this for a long time, so it's here. It feels good to be finally doing Dracula.
Yeah, you bet. So I had a look at the campaign before you came on, and I am amazed and encouraged by its simplicity.
Yeah, I'm glad that I put a lot of effort into just making it so straightforward and simple. Because I've had
you did.
I've had insane campaigns that are really complicated.
So if you'd like, you can walk us through it, and I'll drive. I'll do all the scrolling. So you just tell me where you'd like to direct it.
Cool. Yeah. Well, let's scroll down first. We got to look at the 2 covers first, if that's okay. So this first one, this is the cover A. That's Kelsey Shannon did this.
Nice.
Fantastic. Honestly, I think this is the best cover I've ever seen Kelsey do. That's saying something. He's amazing.
That's great.
But yeah, so great. So there's Kelsey Shannon's cover. If you scroll down a little bit, this is cover B. This is Eric Canetti. Knocked it out of the park.
So he's got more than one cover, and he gets Shannon and Canetti. Like, is that?
I know.
Is that like not fair somehow?
I'm very fortunate. Very fortunate. Yeah, it fantastic. I'm glad that it worked out. It's funny because with Kelsey, he's the type of guy that he has inspiration. Like he just reached out to me and said, "Hey, you want me to draw something for Dracula?" I was like, "Oh, sure."
Do I want you to? Let me think. Yeah.
First, it was like, "Well, we'll have you do a trading card," and then he did that, and I was like, "Well, I'm going to turn that into a cover." That's not a trading card. So it will be a trading card also, but that's going to be a cover. And then Eric Canetti. I mean, we've talked back and forth a bit over the past year or so, and I was just like, I want him to do a cover. I know he's such a busy guy. It doesn't hurt to ask, and he agreed to do it. So very fortunate.
Right. It doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah, and then you'll see here, this is the last tier. You didn't even scroll down that far, and so there are five.
We're already there.
Yeah, that's it.
The great thing about this tier is if you can't decide between Kelsey's cover and Eric's, you don't have to. You just go right here. Bam.
Yep.
You get both. Oh, and by the way, folks, they're hardcovers.
Yes.
Nice.
Cover A and B, and they're right here. Hardcover, both of them. That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, this is my first hardcover book. I thought it would be fun. So we're to dive in all the way in for hardcover.
So Clint, is it oversized or is it comic book sized?
It's comic book sized.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm it's because I have Asperger's syndrome, but the oversized ones aren't going to fit in my box with the other ones.
Yeah.
So I definitely appreciate the hardcovers that are comic book size.
I think someday, if I'm fortunate enough to be able to do an omnibus collection of anything, that's when I would consider doing oversized.
Yeah, that's different.
Because that's how a lot of omnibuses are. But yeah, in this case, I think comic book size is the right way to go. So I'm glad you're happy.
No, I use omnibuses as my bookends.
Omnibuses? Okay, so would you prefer that I scroll down to look at the interior art, or do you want to look at the tiers?
We can look at the tiers first. Sorry, I got sidetracked there a little bit. So the first one is it's basically the everything bundle, collector's bundle.
Okay.
$75. You get one of each cover. They're hardcover books. You get a t-shirt that features that logo, great logo that Xevious did. You get a trading card set. And the art on those trading cards is done by Henry Ponciano, and they're fantastic. And then you also get a PDF copy. And
Awesome.
we'll add stretch goals to that as well. So I do have the PDF copy. If you scroll down, that's an option, especially if you are backing from another country. Shipping can be an issue. So I'm doing digital this time.
Okay.
And then down below, cover A, hardcover. Next one is cover B, hardcover. Pretty
So are those
straightforward.
guys going to have a competition to see who sells the most? Right now, it would be Kelsey Shannon by quite a wide margin, 66 claimed versus the 20 claimed here.
He's doing great behind the scenes too, because I do have one secret perk that was for people that joined the mailing list. And like, as you kind of look at the numbers, Kelsey's ahead right now for sure, but they're both selling books. So it feels good.
I'm one of these numbers right here.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I got the Kennedy cover.
I love it. I love them both for different reasons, obviously, but Eric Canetti's cover, it matches the vibe of the story very well. Very loyal to what's going on. Part of that is just I had so many pages done that I could show him as for reference from the interior work.
Okay. Yeah, that helps.
And then I mean, they're both great though. So yeah, I love them.
Now,
it strikes me as a mood. The first one strikes me as more of the mood of Dracula, right? And it sort of brings you into that moment, whereas the second was more historic. It brings you into sort of the period piece of the storyline.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's interesting because it is a modern take on Dracula, but when you go into Dracula's mansion, it feels like you're stepping back in time. So all of his wives are dressed in, sort of Victorian clothing, and it just is just a little bit off. Everything.
Very eyes wide shut right now.
Are they wearing those hoops under those dresses? Some of them, or are they just that thick?
Yeah, we'll never know. It could be a little bit.
We'll never know, really.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Well, they're hiding a secret. I don't want to spoil too much, but
okay.
They do have blood all over their mouths, so
I see that. Yeah. In fact, I was thinking as you were talking about it, if they tried to bite your neck with this mask on, the thing would poke you and prevent their teeth from reaching your neck.
Yeah, there's maybe some symbolism there with the masks as well.
Okay.
But it's I don't know, it's fun. He did just a fantastic job of tying it all in. But yeah, super simple campaign. I do have add-ons on the back, so if you are like new to Downcast or you need to catch up on Downcast, everything's available there.
If you don't have Downcast, you're doing yourself a disservice. I mentioned it before you got here, Clint, that on my 2021 Best of CG, I had you down as the best author in CG for that year. But more than that, Downcast is probably one of the best written comic books I've ever read. So
that means a lot.
Kudos to you for that. That was, I'm impressed. I can't wait for the next.
Thank you. Yeah, so, we're working on it. It's being drawn. So
okay. Well, good to hear.
Yeah.
So we talked about how they had 66 copies of cover A sold, 20 of cover B, but there's also 8 of each of them here sold, and in the collector's bundle, another 10 of each of them sold. So this is good. You're doing really well. Let's see. So you're funded.
Yeah.
So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
154 backers. 40 days. How many days did you go?
40. I know.
Okay.
It's random.
That's odd.
I know. I've done the 30-day, and I've also done the 30-day and then renew for another 30 days. On Downcast 3, I just did 40. That kind of like split the difference. Okay. And it just felt right. So I did it again. So I can extend it if I really want to, but it'll go in demand, so I probably won't.
So on IndieGoGo, if you pick 40 for the first one, can you then only extend it 20?
Yep. Yeah, maximum of 60 days.
Gotcha. Okay. I'd never considered that. That's good to know. I've got a campaign coming up pretty soon, so I'm trying to learn from you guys. Just soak it all in,
Yeah, there are a lot of options. And I don't really know what's best, but I kind of like just setting it and letting it go, and InDemand's fantastic, and I'll use InDemand. But
so what that tells me then is you launched today.
Yeah.
And you're funded. at 110%
No kidding.
with 154 backers. Man,
And you could actually
congratulations to
refresh
you.
it. We're up a bit
Yeah.
more from that.
Are you? Dang,
Teach us, master.
I'm gonna take credit for those then.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is it says down there 7 projects.
Yeah.
So technically one of those wasn't mine. I was a contributor on it, but I like to take credit. Sure. Well,
Oh yeah, why not?
But I mean, I don't know. It's just been consistently putting out books. Honestly, at the end of the day, it just comes out that readers are supportive, and time and time again, they are supporting my books. And so I'm so grateful.
You're very, humble about this, but the thing I think that makes them come back time and time again is your professionalism, your fulfillment of the books that you have control over fulfillment. I understand you've got a couple. Fatal for one is one you're struggling to get out there. I'm waiting for it too, but you're not leaving us in the dark. You're talking to us about it. You're letting us know what's going on. So those of us that backed you appreciate that. I'm not mad, bro. I'll get it. No, I know I'll get it from you.
Yeah, and that was tough. It was a tough decision because so I'm up to date on all my books. Fatal has been a very difficult book, and the artist Charlie's been going through some very, very tough times with his family. The good news is it's really close. Like it's annoyingly close to being finished. So it's like less than 4 pages left to draw.
Well, that's good to hear.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
right at the end.
It's really close. So we're getting there. And I don't know. It was tough to decide. Like, do I launch Dracula? As I got thinking about it, it was, I gotta pay a lot of people that are working on these books. Donald got paid, but part of our deal is that he is going to get something from the crowdfunding campaign depending on how it does. And so putting him off anyway. So I ultimately decided to do it because the book is finished. The print file is finished. It's at the printer. The printer's been paid the deposit.
And now you're talking about Dracula.
That's Dracula. Yes.
Yes. Okay. I just want to make sure that was clear.
Yeah.
That this is the one he's talking about that's done.
Right.
It's at the print file's done and it's at the printer. So, this one back with absolute confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. I figured, I don't know. It's as done as it can possibly be right now. So I figured we'll launch it, but people have been super supportive about it. And yeah, that's the one thing with Fatal is we're just doing updates, regular updates, talking about it and being very transparent about what's going on. So
transparency is important. Yes.
Yep.
So this here is the interior art. It is going to be a black and white book. How many pages is this, Clint?
Yeah. So it's 56 pages of total. So it's 50 pages for the main story. There's a 3-page backup story by Narwhal,
really?
which is just a funny like sitcom 3-pager it'll make you feel better after you read Dracula, the main story.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there's a couple extra pages in there, so it's 56 total. Yeah, 50 for the main story. Donald DeLay did the interior artwork. I've been showing that, I always say it wrong. It's the wood block or wood carved painting, something like that, from Vlad the Impaler. Maybe you've seen that famous one where it's all black and there's all these people, black and white people are up on pikes, and he's feasting on people. And that image, I thought, I need an artist that can draw a really stylized style that's sort of cartoony, because that's the way that it looks.
Okay.
And there's something absolutely creepy about it being so stylized and cartoony and yet dealing with such serious subject matter. So Donald, he did such a great job. We did it black and white because I think it had to be.
It kind of adds it to its period piece-ness.
Right.
Yeah. There's I think it just needed to be. It serves the story. We're doing hardcovers, so I was like, I don't want people to think I'm trying to skimp to save money. So we did them hardcover. So it's pretty clear, like we want it to just be a nice book. It serves the story.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So what a great campaign. I love that you come to my show, you're already funded. You got a bump while you're here. I mean, what more can you ask for?
It's fantastic. Yeah. I'm just so grateful. Every time I check Twitter and I just see my notifications blowing up. People are circulating it. It's
Right.
just, I have fantastic backers. People have been so supportive. It's been great.
That's awesome to hear. All right, so we've reached the top of the hour. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do well. First, I'm going to stop sharing so I can see you guys. Right now, all I can see is the campaign. That always happens to me when I'm doing these things. When I'm scrolling for the folks, all I can see is the campaign, and I can't see your expressions or whatever. But so okay, I'm back, and I can also now see the chat and say hey to Crazy Mad and Indie Wrestling Aces. Thanks for being here, guys. And to all of you who will come and watch this on the replay, I really appreciate it. Mm-hmm. I know that most folks do watch this show on the replay because I got some really big names that I'm streaming up against, but that's okay. I'll go watch their show on the replay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go round robin here. I'm going to start with you, Jake. Where can we find you on the socials?
Oh, you can find me on Instagram or Twitter at my tags right here, Bionic Bruh and TaleEnd Studio.
Excellent. And yeah, go back. Cobalt Death Stalks Us. It's the second in a series about his character Cobalt. It's a great IP, and he delivers. I got the first one sitting right over here. I won't dig it up again, but he's got the first one. There it is. It's good stuff. Okay, I'm going to drop down diagonally and ask you, Double H, where can we find you on the socials?
Sigma Comics Instagram. You go on that Instagram and just type in Sigma Comics, and you send a holler, and we'll be happy to receive you.
Awesome. That's great to hear. And yes, go back. Here Comes Calico. And yes, on number 5, folks. So that means this series is well underway. If you have to wait for an IP to get a few issues under their belt, this is one to go for now. And Clint, where can we find you?
Yeah, so on YouTube, it's Sweetcast. And then to make it confusing, so that's YouTube. On Twitter, it's @CastSweet. So backward. I know all of this is so unfortunate, but I'm stuck with it now. So
it adds to your charm, let's say.
Yeah, it is what it
is. Real quick before we say goodbye, I want to thank Hockey for being here. Great to have you. Good day. We've got Finatra with us. Very good to see you guys. Thanks for dropping in. And guys, that does bring us to the end of the show. Thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Great campaigns. Great to meet you, Double H. Good to have you, Jake and Clint, back on the show, and hope to talk to you all again soon on the Dojo Kun Shill Shack. Take care, everybody.
Hey, guys.
Bye.
Good seeing you.
Later.